Hey, what's up guys, McLaren here from the Pentagon Studios. If you're a human being, which I'm assuming, and living in our digital world, which I'm also assuming due to the fact that you're watching this video, you probably encountered the following limitation: digital storage space. No matter if it's your phone, your computer, or any other device, at some point your storage space is full and you're asking yourself, what should I do? Well, in this series, we're gonna attempt to get clearance in the world of storage solutions. On this first episode, we talk about the different possibilities to store data. So let's get started. There are various kinds of storage devices out there, but today we will just talk about devices for long-term storage. All the other ones like USB sticks and SD cards we will cover in a separate video. First on our list are hard drives. They are by far the slowest devices on our list, with writing speeds around 100 to 200 megabytes a second. Since a hard drive is using a rotating magnetically disk, the rotations per minute, or RPMs, are affecting the speed of the storage device. Generally talking, the speed is faster if the RPMs are greater. Common RPM values are 5400 and 7200, and some enterprise products spin even faster. Another thing to know about hard drives is the fact that two form factors are existing: 2.5 inch and 3.5 inch. We can find 2.5 inch drives mostly in portable hard disk and in laptops. Due to their limited amount of space, the capacity of them is maxing out at around 5 terabytes, and usually the disk is spinning with 5400 RPMs. The bigger brother of it, the much bigger 3.5 inch, maxes out currently at a capacity of 16 terabytes, and most of the drives are operating with 7200 RPMs. Therefore, they are faster than 2.5 inch models and used in desktop computers, servers, and external hard drives. For prices, we look at around 20 to 30 euros per terabyte if you're using a high capacity disk, which I'm highly recommending. For use cases, we can say that HDDs are mostly used for long-term storage because they are much cheaper than their solid-state counterparts. But due to their slow speed, it isn't a good idea to store on them files which you need often or your software installations. These files should stay on a solid-state drive. Which brings us to our next candidate, SSDs. Just like the name says, solid-state drives don't have a spinning disk. Instead of that, they're storing data on semiconductor cells. One cell can store from 1 to 4 bits of data. 1 bit per cell is the most reliable method, but consumer SSDs often use the 4 bits per cell method, because as you can imagine, it is much cheaper. Anyway, without going too much into detail about the technology, we can say that SSDs are running much quieter, are more resistant to physical shocks, and, most importantly, they are much faster. We're talking about reading speeds in the neighborhood of 400 to 600 megabytes a second. But these major improvements are coming with a drawback: the price. 1 terabyte of SSD storage costs currently around 130 euros. That is 5 times more than the cost of HDDs. For that reason, SSDs are used to store all of the files you need often, such as software installation files, your operating system files, and the files of your projects you're working with currently. Yes, say the SSDs are fast, but there are even faster ones out there. M.2 NVMe drives. They are faster because of their connection. Normal SSDs use the SATA standard to communicate with your system. This connection is fairly old and maxes out at a theoretical value of 750 megabytes a second. This should generally be enough, but SSDs with modern architectures could be much faster if the bottleneck isn't the connection. So rather than the slow SATA connection, the engineers are using the PCI Express standard for NVMe drives to communicate with your system. This standard is much faster, and M.2 SSDs have maximum reading speeds of over 3000 megabytes a second. They are also coming in a different form factor than normal SSDs, and they are attached directly onto your motherboard, just like graphic cards. The drawback is once again the price. For 1TB of NVMe storage, we look around 170 euros. So for what should we use an NVMe drive? Well, most applications will have enough with the speed of a normal SSD, and you're gaining only a few percentages of improvements because other parameters are limiting your system. NVMe's are therefore only useful if you're working with immersive big file sizes such as raw videos or files with similar high data rates. They are also useful to use as a cache drive, because there it is super important that you get these snappy response times. Lastly, I want to note that this was only a simplified explanation. Apart from reading speeds, there are so many other parameters that are affecting the speed of the drive, such as cache size or writing method. But I find that the general consumer doesn't need to know about that. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Stay tuned for episode 2, where we talk more in detail about the use cases and the configuration of your drives. So make sure you subscribe so you can't miss it out. That's all for now. See ya!